So attention to all life insurance agents. In this video, I'm going to share with you how I went from $0 to earning over $100,000 my first year as a life insurance agent. I'm going to share with you my story. And my story starts like this. I had $6,000 in a business bank account. Here's a screenshot. And I turned that into over 6 figures in profit as a life insurance agent. I had no idea what I was doing. I made a ton of mistakes. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the 4 important lessons that I learned to help me earn 6 figures profit as an insurance agent. And if you implement these 4 things I'm going to share with you, it's going to allow you to not fail at the business, make more money as an insurance agent, and ultimately absolutely crush it in 2025, going into 2026 as an insurance agent. So let's go ahead and share with you guys how you can do it. So the first thing that I focus on that allowed me to earn over 6 figures as an insurance agent was, number 1, was my focus. Okay, this is not talked about by a lot of people that make videos on life insurance, but this is the most important thing that I focused on, which was my time and effort. I decided immediately after my first 3 days in this business to go full time in this business. Okay, I used to come home from work, start dialing leads when I first got started, and I was like, man, this is not going to work. I'm either going to go all in or I'm going to go all out. So I quit my role. I had a hard conversation with my boss at the time, who I had a really great relationship with, and I went full time. And that was the biggest and best decision that I made. All my attention, all my energy, I had no option other than to succeed. And through that, my focus and my attention went on to sales. My first 3 to 6 months in this business, I did not focus on lead generation. I didn't focus on having the best CRM. I didn't focus on having to fulfill customers. The reason I was able to win quickly as an insurance agent, I went from 0 to over $250,000 in issue paid business in my first 6 months, is because all I obsessed about was sales. Sales, sales, sales. My focus was not on finding new clients, like going into a different demographic. My focus was not on trying to change anything. All I wanted to do is focus on revenue generating activities. And what did that mean? That means literally I started at 8 o'clock a.m. every single day, Monday through Saturday, and my whole life revolved around selling. Okay, so these are the revenue generating activities that I focus on. 300 dials minimum per day. These are my activity goals that I focus on every single day that created the success. Because in the beginning, I didn't have the skill set. In the beginning, I got hung up on. In the beginning, I didn't know how to overcome objections. In the beginning, I didn't know how to, overcome basic problems when it comes to the sales process. But the only way that I could overcome that was just sure, raw activity. And literally, I was the first one on Zoom in the morning and typically the last one to leave Zoom, because my activity meant everything, because I was selling, I was closing, and I was getting the feedback that I needed to improve. From 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., I was dialing. Literally my life for the first 3 months as an insurance agent. I went 14 days without ever making my first sale, but I learned so much. I did not quit because I just kept being relentless. And I limited all my customer care work. I limited everything that distracted me from selling. My number 1 focus was on generating revenue for the business. And then through this, my activity goal was sell 2 policies every single day. I developed this strategy that allowed me to make 6 figures by saying that 2 sales per day keeps the debt collector away. I was never satisfied when I made 1 sale. I was definitely not satisfied if I made 0 sales. And I did whatever I could to make 2 sales every single day, because that allowed me to feel like, okay, I can breathe. I made a little progress here. I closed my 2 deals. Okay. And through those 2 sales per day, I was always in hunt mode. Every single lead, every single time I had potentially to take a break, to take that lunch break, to maybe take off a little bit to go to dinner early, or to maybe skip the morning training, I did it because all I had to focus on is my life depended on 2 sales per day. And then through the focus, and this is by far one of the most important lessons that I learned that would allow me to earn 6 figures faster as an insurance agent, was just finding one product only. There were so many times where I would second guess final expense, and that's all I focused on. I was on final expense life insurance. I was like, how can you actually make money selling to poor people? Should I go into term? Should I go into IULs? Or maybe I should go into annuities. And I consulted all the people around me that were not making money, and they all told me to change products and to go into different marketplaces. And I did that for a little bit, but this little birdie in the back of my mind said, just stick to one thing. It's already hard enough to make 6 figures with one product. Try that in your first 12 months, doing 2 products or 3 products or 4 products. The training, the scripting, everything changes. So all I did is I had to find the best products. So with my carriers, find the best products. What's being a broker, I could shop the market, have the best products, but I only sold final expense because what I wanted to learn is how to get great at selling to one person. And that is why your focus is so important. I wanted to learn how to build a business around one person. How can I be the best at serving Miss Betty? How can I have the best script to serving Miss Betty? How can I have the best retention to serving Miss Betty? And through that, thank goodness, I listened to that birdie. I was able to become really, really good at selling to one person, the one great product, and allow me to actually generate 6 figures in income. Now, the second thing that I want to talk about is the systems. This is the systems that allow me to earn a 6-figure income as a life insurance agent. And I put this down first. It says, don't be fancy. Okay. A lot of you guys here today might be listening. You don't have the right systems. You don't have the right dialers. You don't have the right script. You don't have the best leads in the business. That stuff does not matter. Okay. When I first got started, I literally had my smartphone and I had leads on like a Google Drive that had their first name, their last name, and it was like an Excel folder, right? And I would just go through that Excel list calling and then highlighting. Yellow means potential, red means not interested, don't call them again, or green was a sale. And I would just have that formatted. So you don't need a fancy CRM. You don't need a fancy dialer. But when you start making some sales and you get some sales underneath your belt, well, guess what you can do? You can start investing in some of the money that you make back into having a better CRM. So my first CRM, I don't use them anymore. So it was a company called Ringy, and it was $99 per month, and it had all the drip messages, it had all the text messages, and I would have my leads go from leads to Zapier into my CRM, and I would dial from a basic CRM. Okay. Now, when it comes to the lead generation, early on in my journey, all I focused on, talking about focus, my first 6 months was I was actually buying leads from lead vendors because I didn't have the time when it comes down to focus to figure out how to, build a Facebook campaign. I didn't have the time to figure out how to create ads or get better at ads. All my time was actually focusing around like all I need is leads coming into my system. I need a place to call them and I need a good sales script. If I had those things, I can make money. And then through the process of getting better and allowing myself on a Sunday to learn these things, I eventually got into having better lead generation. Through my systems, I also made sure that I had drip messages. One of the core components of allowing me to earn 6 figures was actually nurturing my leads correctly. So I spent many hours at night figuring out the best drip campaigns. When people would call in, I would send them a text, and then I would send them another text, and I'd call them, and I'd text them, and I'd follow them, and I'd get them on the phone. And when they call in, when they text in, I would call them. So having a good system that has CRM, a phone dialer, drip messages, and a good speed to lead, that is the key. Calling a lead within 60 to 90 to 120 seconds is crucial for your contact rates, okay? And that was my life. When I was eating, when something was going on and I saw a lead come in, I'd have it pop up on my main phone. So as I'm having my phone on my desk, I see that Betty Lewis sent in a request on Facebook, or Betty Lewis just became a lead, right? For my lead vendor, it sends you a message. I stop everything and I call Miss Betty within 2 minutes, and my likelihood of getting her on the phone increased dramatically. And when I was first getting started, I actually was buying from vendors that would go to 3 to 4 different agents. And I knew that the agents didn't focus on speed to lead. And my biggest focus is when that lead comes in, everything else stops around me. I don't care if I'm on a phone call with someone. I don't care if I'm texting someone. Hey, I got to go and I'm going to work and call this lead. So my speed to lead, I was actually a psycho when it comes to lead generation and then calling your leads as soon as possible. Now, the formula for how many leads that I got, some of you guys might ask, well, how did you sell all this premium? Well, I was selling around $30,000 to $60,000 of business every single month as an insurance agent, and I was generating about 20 to 30 leads every single day. So if I knew that I had 20 to 30 leads brand new, which is probably more than you need now, knowing what I know now, I could at least sell 2 policies. And if I didn't, I would probably generate more leads than I should because I wanted to call them. Because as long as I had leads, I knew I could sell people. Now, when it comes to core metrics in my system, I want to talk about my dialing and my activity and core things that I focused on. I really wanted to make sure that I had at least 4 hours of talk time. So I wanted to be on the phone for at least 4 hours every single day talking and pitching to people. Okay, if I had that, I could typically produce 5 quotes. So 5 quotes. And through those 5 quotes, using my winning sales script and ultimately closing deals in the past, I learned that I could probably sell 2 out of the 5. And I got really good at this process where all I would say is, I need 5. I need 5. So I got my 5, then I knew I'd close my deals that allowed me to close those 2 sales. Those 2 sales every single day keeps the debt collector away. Okay. And then through that, one of the core things that I focus on was my hunting strategy, which is a sale by noon. And this is sale by noon also contributed to my, ability to earn 6 figures, because I woke up every single day anxious, worried. I checked my chargebacks, which we'll talk about in a second, and be like, I need to sell ASAP. And until I made that first sale in the morning, I could finally breathe. So every single morning I would hunt, I would text, I would call my hit list, I would do whatever it takes to get a deal by noon, because if I got that deal by noon, my desperation, my neediness went away, and then I could sell 2, 3, 4 policies by all closing that deal by noon. So my system really looked like this. If you can see below here, I'll just explain it to you. I had leads come in either on Facebook or with a lead vendor. I would then dial them with my dialer or just directly on my smartphone, because the smartphone actually works better because you can see your name pops up and it's definitely not flagged. And then I would double or triple dial them. I will then take them through my full script process. That script process, you cannot skip the good script. If you have a good script, print it out. And that script, when I sold when I made $100,000 in a year, that script was greasy. That script looked like a dog ate on it, because I used it and I used it and I used it on every single call. When I used to travel, I would take it with me. When I would, go to the gym, it would be my book bag. Like, I always had that script on me, because that was the reason that allowed me to be successful. Don't change your script if it works. The fourth thing is that I would take them through my sales process, and then I ultimately saw my sales skill improve by doing the reps. And then 5, I would repeat that. Get leads, get them on the phone, take them through my script, close them, and then back on the dialer and do it again over and over. Now, through that, to earn 6 figures, the third thing that I need to focus on if you want to get there is you have to understand the money model of how you make money as a life insurance agent. Now, this is something I did not understand for a very, very long time. And this is why I thought I was making a lot of money, but I wasn't at first. This is why I lost a lot of money. And I just highly recommend that if you want to learn how to make a ton of money as an insurance agent, you understand the money model. Okay. And what the money model is understanding, first off, how you get paid as an insurance agent. Okay. A lot of times you see on Instagram or YouTube, just made $1,200 on a policy. But there's 4 things that you need to understand on how you get paid and actually how you make money as a life insurance agent. Because without money going into your bank account, you cannot fund the business, you can't make more money, and you can actually go broke really quick. So the first thing we'll talk about is your money model. How do you actually get cash in your bank account? There's really 3 to 4 components to this. Number 1 is you have your annualized premium. How to get your annualized premium is you take your policy face amount. So let's say your policy price, monthly price, and you times that by 12. So let's say Miss Betty's paying $100 per month for her policy. You take the 100 times it by 12, you get your annualized premium. Then you multiply that by your compensation rate. Now, your compensation rate is going to depend on what product it is. If it's guaranteed issue, you're going to get a lower compensation rate. If it's simplified issue, you're going to get a higher compensation rate. It depends on who your IMO is. Big mistake that I made, I got like a 90% with my first company for simplified issue, which was really low, being a business owner. So I wish I knew more about my compensation rate. You want about 100 to 120 in a simplified issue model. That's a really, really strong compensation rate. Take that by your compensation rate and you multiply that by your advance. Now, your advance is how much money they're going to actually advance you, because an advance means this. Miss Petty, so the insurance companies are going to give you basically 9 months of her first payment. Okay, they're saying, hey, Peter, we believe that this client's going to stay on the books for 9 months, so we're going to give you all that money up front early for selling her a policy. Now, if Miss Betty cancels after 3 months, you have to pay that money back. The month 4, month 5, month 6, month 7, month 8, and month 9. All those become your chargebacks. And through that advance, you actually get what's called your cash collected. Okay, so what that would be is your advance would be either 50% advance, okay, if that's a guaranteed issue or simplified issue policy. Or secondly, if it's a simplified issue policy, it's going to be 75% advance, okay? And through that, you take your AP, times your commission rate, times your advance, and that equals how much cash is going to go into your bank account. That is your cash flow from a sale, okay? Now, when it comes to your money model, the goal, someone talked about like lead generation. The best leads are the ones that have the lowest customer acquisition cost. When you have to understand your money model, what I did and one of the mistakes that I made is that I would just buy leads just to buy leads, out there money at live transfers. I would spend more money on lead vendors. I didn't care. I just thought if I make sales, I'm going to make money. But that's actually incorrect. And what you want to understand is how to calculate your customer acquisition cost. A great customer acquisition cost, if you're doing this independently without a team, by yourself, on small scale, is anywhere from like $200 to $300. If you have a CAC of $200 to $300, you're probably going to do well. You're going to cash flow and you're going to win. Okay. And how do you calculate your customer acquisition cost? This was my secret to earning six figures here. I would typically spend $6 per lead back in the day, about 3 years ago now. And then I would get 100 leads per week. So I'd take my $6, times that by 100. I got $600 in total lead spend. Okay. Then I had my system costs. This would be my Zapier. This would be my CRM costs. This would be my dialing minutes. This would be all my hard costs. I had around $400 per week. So what I would always focus on is through my sales systems and my sales skill that I developed, I could sell 8 policies every single week, 8 policies per week. And then I divide that by my my cost, which is 600 plus 400, which is $1,000. And I take the 8 sales, divide that by 1,000, and I get a customer acquisition cost of $1,025 as my CAC. So what that means is that I would spend $125 to make about $600 to $700 in upfront straight cash if I'm selling an $80 simplified issue policy, which is a great return, which is something that I can keep. Now, when it comes to that, I do want to break down the second part of understanding your money model, because sometimes you think, I made that sale, I'm going to get this money, I'm going to win. But what I didn't understand, and what you need to understand as a business owner or an insurance agent, is what's called your placement rate. Okay? Your placement rate is a core driver of how much money you're going to make as a life insurance agent. Okay? Your placement rate determines your likelihood that a client actually makes their first payment. So with life insurance, here's the thing. I could sell 10 policies today, and they could all start next month on the 1st. On next month on the 1st, Miss Betty, all my 10 clients, none of them make their first payment. I literally sold 0 policies. Okay. This is why you want to write good business. And typically in this business model, you want to have a placement rate about 75%, which is going to mean that if you sell 10 policies in a week, 7.5 of those are going to go in force, and the other 2 are going to fall off, which means that they're not going to actually pay you and you're not going to make any money on those policies. So that's why 2 policies per day, Monday through Friday, get you 10 sales. And through those 10 sales, you'll have about 2 of those fall off, and which you'll have 8 actually go active. Okay. Now, through that placement rate, this is the core metric, because if it's at 40% or 2% or 10%, this is determining how much money you're going to make off of your sales. Okay. Now, the third thing that actually impacts your money model a ton is going to be the type of business that you write. Okay. Going back to example, let's say I sell 10 policies. Okay. All of those 10 policies pay with their credit card. Now, the insurance companies are not going to do what we call as an advance here on the whiteboard. They're not going to advance you the money up front, because credit card business is bad business. Okay. So all they're going to do is they're going to pay you as earned, which means that you're only going to receive the monthly payment in your bank account, not the advance. So instead of receiving maybe $600 in your bank account, you're going to receive $60 in your bank account by selling the type of business such as card business. So not all sales are equal. Okay. The goal here is to have at least 90 to 95% of all of your business be EFT or bank draft. The more bank draft, the better. Remove as much card business as possible, because you don't get the advance, which means that you don't get the upfront cash, allows you to keep investing in your business. Okay. The fourth thing is chargebacks. Chargebacks hit me a ton early on, and I'll share with you some of the mistakes that I made here. But chargebacks, you don't want them. A 25% chargeback rate is something that you need to account for. So if you're building your business right now as a life insurance agent, the money that you make is not what you get to keep. Expect it to cancel. Expect clients to not make their payments, okay? This is part of the business. And the way that you defeat chargebacks is literally by systems, having great systems, and outselling the chargebacks. And eventually, there's this place where you start getting chargebacks, but your sales override those, that eventually come to a place where you zero them out, or you start getting ahead and you actually start making money. So all your chargebacks will come. Okay, they're going to come. But you want at least 25% or less of your business to be chargebacks. And if you are having above 25%, you're selling the wrong way, you're not locking down the policies, you're not getting policies that people can afford, and you're maybe not being honest in your sales process. So be clear. Best way to reduce chargebacks is to set clear expectations and never feel like you're getting, you're not winning someone over by hiding or withdrawing information. And through the chargebacks, if you have 25%, and then you also account for any other costs, such as plan for increased lead costs. Lead costs are going to go up. If you're going to, CRM costs are going to increase. Chat GPT for AI, you're going to have additional add-ons and features. When you're running a business, a lot of costs do go up. So the biggest thing is to make sure that you have your money model down, so you understand how to make money, how you can cash flow the business, keep a low CAC, have great systems in place, and have clear focus, and you can start making money. Now, the fourth thing that I want to talk about is that if you want to be on track to earn the six figures, is avoid the dumb mistakes that I made that prevented me from earning six figures. Okay, and this is a mistake that a lot of agents make that I want you to not fall into if you want to win as a life insurance agent. Let me switch my spot here. Okay, so step one is avoid dumb mistake number one, which is do not recruit people if you're not ready. I think it's kind of blurry. Let me go back here. Okay, do not recruit people if you are not ready. Okay, this is a huge mistake that I made, and anytime I did it, I saw my bank account go down. Okay. All my upline, everyone's like, you got to start recruiting. You got to start building your team. You got to build your team. And I didn't know what I was doing. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to spend my lunchtime, about an hour or so, and a little bit after, calling people and trying to recruit them on my team. And then through there, guess what? I didn't know what I was doing. I was struggling still in the beginning. I was then not calling and generating revenue. And I started to lose money. So the big thing is, until you're making the true, I'd say, from $8,000 to $12,000 consistently every single month, and you've done it month after month, and you feel confident, then you can go out there and, kind of remove some of your sales process down and start recruiting. But the worst thing you could do is not know how to sell and then start recruiting people and start changing that time. It's going to kill you. Secondly is sell policies that people can't afford. I didn't know this because all I thought was sell, sell, sell. And what I would do is, this is going to contribute to my chargeback bucket, is I used to sell people just because they wanted a policy. I didn't ask a lot of questions and they instantly said yes. And even though deep in my mind, I was like, man, I know they can't afford it. It just sounds like a little sketchy. Like they said, like they think they can, I would just push through it because I was so focused on selling to put things on the leaderboard to like flex and like, hey, I'm the number one agent on the team. And what happened is my placement rate fell from 75% to 50%, all because I was selling the wrong way. So if you need placement is for dough, selling is for show. So if you just sell policies just to sell policies to post on the leaderboard, you're going to go broke. I made this mistake. Don't make the mistake. Sell good business that Miss Betty's going to keep, that she's going to actually use, and ultimately make sure that she's going to be a client for life. The goal is not to sell a policy for someone to make the first payment. The goal is to sell someone a policy so that they're making their payments for life. And if you do that, you're going to see a ton of back-end renewal commissions, and life's going to be good. The third thing is don't follow up with clients. That's a mistake that I made. When Miss Betty was like missing her payments and, Miss Betty like wanted to change her policy, or Miss Betty was like, hey, I can't make the payment this week. Can you move it? I wasn't the best at following up. And that was a big mistake because I was so focused on selling. I was so focused on closing my 2 to 3 sales per every single day that in the evenings when I was done work, I should have just picked up the phone and called them, because that led to an increase in chargebacks. And it also, prevented me from building long-term relationships. And one thing that I wish I did differently, that I could make a lot more money, and that's something that we're using now at my agency. Again, if you are here because you want to join a great company and you want to get these systems, we are hiring Legacy Family Life. You can work with me. But one thing that we do is that we actually call our clients every 6 and 12 months. And we say, hey, you've been on the books for 6 to 12 months. Would you like to increase your coverage? And then one thing that I didn't do that I wish I did more of was take my current clients and then upsell them a new policy 6, 12, 18 months down the road, because there's literally zero acquisition costs and I can make money on clients that already trust me. The fourth thing is a mistake that I made is I did not control anything. Okay. For the longest 6 months in this business, I didn't control my leads because I was buying them from lead vendors. I didn't have a CR in place. I was hand dialing, and I didn't have like the really, really good core systems in place. And it spent a lot of time building those out, developing those, trying new drip messages, trying text messages, paying people to generate leads, paying people to show me how to do ads. And then through that, it allowed me. So if you could just find someone that can help you do this, it'll shortcut your speed. If they already have the systems, if they already know how to generate leads, if they already know how to have a great dialer and great data in place, then you can win. And something I'd love to add in here that I didn't add is that I didn't have the data. I didn't know what my placement rate was. I never really tracked what my persistency was. I never really tracked what my accurate closing rate is on how many leads I generated. I never really tracked what my contact or presentation were. And through that, I made a ton of mistakes that I could have caught earlier if I actually had the data that would allow me to make good decisions. And I think a lot of times you get so stretched thin doing this full time, learning the process, trying to build your systems, trying to understand the money model, that the last thing that you actually implement is good data. And if I had the good data and I could see what I was working with, I would have made much better decisions. I would have made more money than just six figures my first year as a life insurance agent. So if you have a place that you can get data that's clear, that has trackability, that you can understand what you need to update, what you need to change, you can make a ton more money as a life insurance agent. The fifth thing, and we're going to end here, is don't spend the money you don't have on leads. Don't spend money you don't have on leads. And this is something I took a lot of pride in. My $6,000 that I had in my bank account, if I didn't have the $6,000, I would have figured out ways to get free leads. And most importantly, if that $6,000 would have ran out, I wouldn't have dipped into my credit card to say, I'm going to figure this out. I had some savings. I cash flowed every single month. The money that I made, I kept in my bank account, and I was anxious. I had, let's say if I had $50,000 in a bank account, I did not just go out and live the life like a life insurance agent would, like you see on social media. I didn't go flex. I didn't go like buy a Lamborghini for the week. I didn't go out to Miami and pop bottles. No, that $50,000 literally felt like $0. And it still does in my journey as an insurance agent, because you can't you're living off of loans when you're in the insurance business. And until someone makes it to month 9 or month 12, that loan is actually your money and you won. But the problem is a lot of agents, they make their first sale, great deal, they get $1,200 in their bank account and they spend it like it's theirs. And then next month, the chargeback comes. They don't have the money because they just blew it on like great fancy dinner. They took their girlfriend out. They bought a new pair of shoes. They bought a new car. And then before you know it, you have no money in your bank account. You have no more money to feed your business. And now your focus is really split. Your systems can't be invested in. And then you have no clear money model and you lose. So that's just the core features of how I'd go from 0 to 6 figures my first year as a life insurance agent. If you guys like these videos, whiteboard videos, let me know in the comments below. If you made it to the end and you want to meet with me and join my team, please know that we are hiring here, and I'd love to help you in your journey. We have an agency model where we can help you build you, give you the systems, and help you earn an incredible lifestyle and live and actually win with really good systems. So I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for being here and hope this helped. Cheers.